Wake up! Wake up, wake up, wake up!
Good morning, Vietnam!
Hello there.
What's happening?
I feel the need for speed. Ow! Warriors, come to play!
Here's Johnny!
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hello, cinephiles, and welcome to the Thursday night live stream on Cinematech. And of course, on this particular live stream, I'm going to be talking about The Batman. I just saw it today. I got home from the screening no less than an hour ago, and I have quite a few things that I want to say about The Batman. But rest assured, there will be no spoilers in this live stream. I am going to keep the secret of this film from you until you yourselves can see it. And you should. You should. I think everyone probably will. You didn't need me to tell you to go see The Batman, but maybe I can impart some things on you that you can watch out for, or maybe think about after you see it. So, without further ado, we got to play Wordle, of course. What would be a Batman themed word? I can't fit many Batman themed words in here. Crime. Let's see what we get with crime. Ooh, what do we get with night? Because I am the knight. Ooh, okay. So R, M, and N. Bruce. Do you think Bruce is a name? I don't think Bruce would fit in here, would it? Nah, it's not going to take Bruce. Let's see. So I got the N. These are all in the wrong place. Wayne. I don't think Wayne would work either. No. Wayne's might do it. All right, so we know the N doesn't go there. All right, let's see if we can solve this now. We've got 3 letters. 3 letters. Oh, Joker. That's a good one. Let's try that. Because J's are like usually in these puzzles, right? Okay, so we got an O. Let's say, oh, it's not no. Okay. Mon. M-O-N-E-Y? Have we done? No, there's no E, is there? M-O-N. Namor. Imagine if Namor was actually in The Batman and that was a spoiler for you guys. Don't worry, it's not. It's not. Because Namor is a Marvel person and that would be an insane crossover. No, that's not what we're going for. Okay. M and N. Roman? I don't think so. But I just want to see if we can get some of these in the right place. Mourn. Interesting. I think I've used... Oh, I haven't done that. Well, I'll go with what you say, Don. Since this is the last shot, I think you're probably right. Let's see what we get. Oh, nice. Nice. Team effort. Right at the very end. It's almost like you guys want me to get into talking about the Batman. You want me to stop messing around on the internet. All right, let's go back into this view. Hello, everybody. Hello again. What a wonderful Wordle. What a wonderful time to be alive, doing Wordle and stuff. Should we... No? What do you mean no, Don? Why, because you got it right? You don't want me to talk about Batman? Yeah, you haven't seen it. Don't worry. This is a non-spoiler discussion about it. I will not be talking about the story at all. I have a bunch of things here written down that I do want to talk about that have nothing to do with the story. Well, maybe one thing that's like a partial thing, but I'm going to be super, super vague about it. And a lot of what I'm going to be saying is in contrast, or is putting the film in contrast to what comic book films have typically become over the last decade or so, maybe a bit longer, thanks in large part to Disney. Can you suggest a pee break for the Batman? I would suggest, and I actually just put a tweet out about this, because someone had a very sentiment, similar sentiment to you, Dory. Let's see if I can just find it quickly. I'll pull it up. Yeah, let me go to my profile. Yo. Yeah, okay, here we go. So Crazy Reed Loves Movies said, crazy or no? Drinking substantially less water throughout the day. So I lowered the probability of having to go during the Batman's 3-hour runtime. That's stupid. Why would you do that to yourself? That sounds like a really bad idea. And I do not agree with it whatsoever. Like, what is this? And I said, or just go to the bathroom right before and don't drink a lot during the film. Has all sense left us? I did this and was able to make it through. I certainly used the bathroom after the film was over, but I was comfortable the whole time. So yeah. Go to the bathroom before and don't get a giant ass thing. And that's how you will survive the Batman. All right, looks like we got some people in here now. Getting a few more. Make sure to get into the chat. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. Let me know if you've seen the Batman, because you're going to be able to understand some of the stuff that I'm talking about. And why don't you just like the live stream? It's always a very helpful thing. Gets this live out to more and more people. Okay, so I'm just going to reiterate what I said right off the top. This is a spoiler-free review of the Batman. I am not going to be talking about story, with one exception, and I will let you know when that exception comes up, and I guarantee you that I will be speaking about this exception in the vaguest way possible. And I'm mostly going to be using this as a way to like rip on Marvel movies. So I'm not even really going to be talking about the Batman that much during this one section, but I will let you know. I will let you know. The next thing that I really want to say about the Batman is that it's not really a film that you can spoil. I'm not going to use that as an excuse to spoil the film for you. But I think that this is a film where the most impressive thing about it is not the twists and turns that the story takes, but the overall execution of telling that story. The most impressive thing about the story is not really the story itself, but how well the film and the story are made and told. So don't let that be the full review. Stick around, because I have a lot of other things to say about this film. But I think if this is a movie where you did happen to come across a spoiler during your journey across the internet, on Twitter, on other YouTube channels, it would still be a wonderful experience for you if you were to see it in theaters. So don't worry about the spoilers too much. I'm not going to spoil the film, but don't worry about them if you do see them. Hey, Don, I see you. You better stay put. I'm pointing at you directly. Don't you go anywhere. So I'm going to kind of ignore chat because it looks like you guys are talking about Lord of the Rings. And just move on to the next thing, which is actually something you are talking about, because it looks like you are talking about Lord of the Rings and the length of Lord of the Rings. Also, Brianna's here. Welcome back. Rocco is a little annoyed with me right now because I was out of the apartment for a number of hours watching films, and when I got home, he let me know that he was upset with me. So he just ate some food, and I can only imagine that he's having a hate nap right now. But if he wants to get a little bit cuddly later, he'll come around. He'll come around. Okay, so I see you guys in the chat. You're talking about the length, Lord of the Ring movies, Avengers Endgame, long stuff. So seems like a logical place to start with the Batman is going to be the length, because that's what a lot of people are talking about. Is this movie too long? When can I go to the bathroom during it? How should I adjust my drinking schedule throughout the day so that I don't need to go to the bathroom during the film? The one thing I will suggest, just as like a baseline recommendation, don't get drunk before going to see it, because you will be off to the bathroom like 3 to 4 times during this entire film. That would be bad, because a lot of what's in this film is necessary. There's not a lot of padding in this film. In fact, I would say there is almost none, which for a 3-hour film speaks to how wide this story goes. This story, even though it is called The Batman, is really a story about Gotham. And there is a lot of different places that we have to go in order to tell the story of Gotham and Batman's relationship to Gotham. So it is broad, It's almost epic, and it's kind of sweeping in that way, but there isn't a lot of additional fluff, which to me is always the great sign of a very good screenplay. They did cut this down, in my mind, to the bare minimum that they needed to tell this story. It's just a very long story to tell. So if you come out of this film with the kind of idea or mindset that it needed to be shorter, that maybe certain scenes could be cut out, I would push back on that and say, I don't think so. I think that the film is exactly as long as it needs to be. And if a general criticism that you do have for it is that it should have been shorter, then I think that criticism is actually that you wanted a different story to be told. I really don't see how this story could have been told in any less time. And I'm glad that they did as much as they did, showing as much as they did, because it all just kind of works and coalesces and feels cogent and coherent. There's just this wonderful feeling that this is a complete, full world. And getting down into the character level of it, all of the events that happen in the film, the way that certain characters change and shift over the length of the film, it all needs just a little bit of space. And the film provides that. And it's not really like any other comic book film that I can think of. I think a very obvious counterpoint would be something like The Eternals, which could probably have been told in like 90 minutes if they really tried. There was a lot of padding in that film, whereas in The Batman, they use all of that 3 hours. And there's maybe 1 or 2 points in the film where I felt maybe they lifted something out of it in order to get the runtime down, and it ended up kind of sandwiching and squishing a couple of scenes back to back that didn't really allow for the full emotional weight of what had happened to settle with the viewer. But like I said, it was really only once or twice. It was really only once or twice that happened. So overall, I'm glad that it was 3 hours. I don't think I would have wanted it to be any longer than that, but I also didn't want it to be any shorter than that. I think they pretty much hit the nail on the head. So I see that actually there's a lot of chat coming in right now. I'm just going to quickly address some of this. Return of the King extended cut is 4.5 hours. Yeah, it is. This movie was great. Saw it Tuesday night. Derpy, I don't know how you... I don't know how you saw it on Tuesday. That's awesome. Although maybe I was talking to you in the Discord about that. By the way, join our Discord if you haven't yet. Yeah, no spoilers, please. The Batman better than the Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. I would agree. I would agree with that. Yeah. And for reasons that I'll probably get into a little bit later as well. This film does certain things a little bit differently than how Joker does them. Once again, no spoilers. Don't you worry. The Batman got any post-credit scenes? It has like 0.25 of a post-credit scene. I'm going to get into some of this a little bit later, but I will say that there is something after all of the credits, but it's more of a wink to the audience than it is like the typical Marvel setting up feature films type stuff. So if you desperately need to go to the bathroom after the film has ended and the credits will start rolling, don't feel bad about making a mad dash to the bathroom because there's nothing really that you're going to miss. And yeah, it is 3 hours. Okay. So this personality to me is a definitive edition of Batman film. I prefer this over The Dark Knight. It's an interesting take, and I'm going to get into that a bit more. So, Brianna, that's just the world that we live in. And I think if you were to see it, you get it. You get it. As soon as you see it, you'd be like, oh yeah, that was about a quarter of a post-credit scene. So I did see this question asked as well. So I'll move on to this one next. The performances. Something else that everyone is going to want to know about is, does Robert Pattinson pull off playing Batman? Does Zoe Kravitz pull off playing Catwoman? What's Colin Farrell like under all of that makeup playing Penguin, and etc. and etc. and etc. The big one that everyone wants to know, of course, is Robert Pattinson a good Batman? And yes, Robert Pattinson is a damn good Batman. He's playing a very particular part in this. He's playing a very particular kind of Batman. You'll remember during the Christian Bale series, he was very much committed to having to balance the life of Bruce Wayne with Batman. So you had those moments where you have Bruce Wayne out about in the world, pretending to be a rich billionaire playboy, buying hotels and mansions and all of those kinds of things. And in The Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, he ain't about that. He ain't about that life. So this film very much focuses on Batman as Batman, and very little of that is dedicated to Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. And the film, at some point, kind of gets into familiar territory that people who have read enough Batman comics will kind of understand how the identity of Batman and Bruce Wayne function in how they function with each other. But once again, no spoilers. Oh man, I can just say whatever I want. So yeah, I think I don't know how to get into the next part of this, but I think part of what is taking up the discourse over Robert Pattinson's performance as Batman and just the Batman himself in the film is that he is like the emo Batman. I don't really think that holds true. He is more of a Batman who is wrecked by guilt and anger and is still trying to figure out how he can be the Batman that he wants to be. And that really is played up well in the film. I don't think there's ever a moment in the film where he's just kind of like crying and listening to, I don't know, Dashboard Confessional and thinking about how he wished his parents were still alive. Like that kind of emotional portrayal of the Bruce Wayne Batman is not in this film. This is a Batman who is angry and brooding, and Robert Pattinson's just very good at doing the brooding. So overall, yes, this is a very good Batman. I don't even know how to rank the different Batmen other than to say that George Clooney is on the bottom, probably. How does it compare to Christian Bale's Batman? Once again, they're playing different types of Batmen. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you mean I have typos in my ticker? Where? Did I spell Bane wrong? That would be disastrous. If I have spelling mistakes, you just let me know. I'll fix them. Ooh, Dory, do we see Batman's parent die for the millionth time? I don't know if that would be a spoiler or not. Robert is so hot. He does do a lot of brooding. He broods so well. I'd be in his brood, if you know what I'm talking about. Is it a David Cronenberg reference? No one knows for sure. That's a spoiler. I mean, I always spell receive wrong, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I'll fix it just because now you've pointed it out, and I feel like I have to. Also, just for people who use Windows, like, why is it not possible to have two different notepad things open at the same time? It probably is, and I'm just an idiot. I'll also just let everyone know that if you follow my my Twitter account at all, the Cinematech Twitter account, you will notice that I said something about a Nirvana song before I came on stream, and that is related to the Batman. And if you hear me humming a song during all of this, just know it's because there is a song in that film that got stuck in my head, and it is a Nirvana song. Once again, not a spoiler, but just letting you know, just so there's no confusion when I start going, You're wondering, why is TJ humming to himself? What is he doing? It's because, there's earworms. There's earworms in this film, which I was not expecting from it. Let's see. Also, what's up with Notepad, like, not correcting my spelling mistakes for me? Doesn't it know that Google does this for me all the time? And also, that spelling of vengeance, that's just how, like, Batman says vengeance. Oh, veggie ants. Veggie ants. True. I guess it's kind of, like, good for me, though, that I had those typos, like, right next to each other. I don't know why that's a good thing. Foss? What do you mean, Foss? Brent, I don't know what that is. What's a spoiler? The fact that there's a Nirvana song in the film? Come on. Get out of here. Don't turn this into a Judi Dench thing, Don. Or is it the fact that I've never been able to spell receive properly in my entire life? Is that a spoiler? I swear, one day I will spell receive right the first time, but today is obviously not that day. I feel like I had it right the first time, but maybe not. Oh no, I had too many E's in it. True, true, true. Google is such a pedant. A pedant. You mean it's pedantic? No, wait, pedant. A person who is excessively concerned with minor details and rules or with displaying academic learning. Yeah, okay. Okay. Yeah, Don, I would much rather you just yell out Judi Dench instead of that's a spoiler, because then I'm just going to be constantly worried that I just said a spoiler. All right, let me bring up my actual window that has these things that I wanted to talk about in again. All right. Yes. So, moving on with performances, we just talked about Robert Pattinson. He broods. He's hot, he's steamy, and broody, and I think he does a really good job as Batman, especially the young kind of Batman who's still trying to figure out what kind of Batman he's going to be. And then we move on to Zoe Kravitz, who does really everything that she needed to do in this film. She kicks ass, she's a strong woman, she scratches people with her claws because she is Catwoman. I guess for some of the things that I would say about her, it gets into spoiler territory, so I won't say too much about her. I think this is likely one of the best portrayals of her, certainly since Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in Batman Returns or Catwoman in the Batman animated series. It's leagues better than what Anne Hathaway did in the last Nolan film. So a very strong Catwoman. She plays a very strong Catwoman, and I think they actually end up changing a couple of things about her backstory, if I'm remembering what her character's backstory actually is from the comic books, for the sake of the story. And overall, they tend to work. It speaks to sort of the overall theme of corruption and decadence that is all throughout this film, which I don't think is a spoiler, but because a lot of Batman films have been about that, the idea of corruption and how the corruption in Gotham City can be fixed if it can be fixed. Yeah, that was something in Dark Knight. It was certainly something all throughout the Nolan films. So, yeah, Zoe Kravitz, really good as well. I think we also need to talk a bit about Paul Dano. I saw his name pop up in chat, so I'll just talk about him as the Riddler. He spends most of his time off screen, and all you're really hearing is his voice. They do a similar thing that they did in part of The Dark Knight, where, you'll remember Heath Ledger's the Joker doing like a video call or leaving a video, and that was very creepy and scary. And now that we've all had the horror of watching and attending meetings in Zoom for the last 2 years, we can all recognize how awful those experiences are, and they're incorporated into the film like that. There is actually a fair amount, now that I'm just saying it out loud, there is a little bit of this movie that sort of owes itself to The Dark Knight. Like, there are little moments in the film that recall The Dark Knight, and I'm sure that they're there on purpose to a degree, but they're also moments that you would typically tend to have in a Batman film anyways. So maybe Matt Reeves was being a little coy, maybe he was being a little sneaky with some references, but overall, he didn't go too overboard. This is not like Han Solo type stuff where he's winking and nodding at the audience the entire time. But Paul Dano is creepy. Paul Dano's a creepy guy. He has a certain amount of charisma about his character that is necessary for things that happen in the film. He kind of plays into, I would say, a type of incel stereotype, and it works, especially once again when we get to the climax, the conclusion of the film. Incel and climax, two things that have never gone together. Why did I tell that joke? I'm a little high on Batman, on his brooding. Yeah, what else can you say about Paul Dano in that movie? He did good. He did good. I think that's probably the thing that you can say about everyone in this film. There's not a bad performance among them. Jeffrey Wright as Jim Gordon does a good job. He's given a bit less to do in this film, I think, than if you were to say, look at Gary Oldman in The Dark Knight. But he does a fairly good job with what he does. He is the sort of straight cop amongst a entire department of crooked cops, and he's able to act as an almost mentor or father figure for Batman on select occasions, and you can really see the beginnings of their relationship developing, which is good, and I owe a lot to that to Jeffrey Wright for being able to express the kind of emotions that Batman can't, because he is Batman. I'm not going to talk about if there are other villains in the film, because that is probably a spoiler. How is the motion capture for Alfred? Amazing. It was kind of weird seeing Gollum as Alfred, honestly. And like, I don't mean Andy Serkis. I mean like Gollum. They spent a lot of CGI money on getting Gollum into this film, but it worked. It worked. He kept referring to Batman as his precious. It's wonderful. Oh dear. I could never spell coincidence. Oh yeah, that one's probably already fucked up for me too. Paul Dano would not get nominated for Best Actor for his role. He is a supporting character. He's a supporting character, so he wouldn't get pushed for best actor. That would be and only could only be Robert Pattinson in this film. I'll go back through. I think that's all I want to say on the performances. They're all good. All the performances are real good. Let's go back through to the chat. The film was multiple Batman storylines put to screen with the feeling of Batman Origins. Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. There, some are more important than others in terms of like the Batman plot lines or the Batman storylines from the comics. One in particular, but once again, I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, it's a good take. Any possible 2023 Oscar nominations for The Batman? I think so. Honestly, I think this could get a Best Picture nomination. I think that the critical praise for the film is going to be strong enough that it will be able to carry through for at least a campaign into that. It's a website that I hate, but I'll just check Rotten Tomatoes quickly to see what people where we're at with this. It's one that I would expect to be in the 90s though. Oh, it's at 84. All right. Tied with After Yang. My goodness. Audience score 95%. Tomato score 84. Who didn't like it? Who's the dummy? No, Rotten Tomatoes. Show me the rotten ones. How does your website work? Okay. This is a bad take. That's actually kind of a good take. Anthony Lane for The New Yorker has a kind of a good take on it, but once again, like, and also not once again, but fuck that guy. Just kidding. Don't say anything bad about Anthony Lane. I'm sure he's a wonderful film critic. Okay, so I'll just say here, his take, the clip for Rotten Tomatoes is dropsicle with self-importance and setting a bold new standard in joylessness. And like, would you accuse Seven of being joyless? Would you say that like the worst part about Seven is that there is no joy in it? It's kind of the point, because that's kind of the tone of it. This Batman doesn't have a lot of joy in it because that's the tone of the film. It's a bleak film. Don't expect to get joy from it. That's just how it is, you know? TJ, should I watch The Batman with moving seats and wind and water spraying, aka 40X? When I was walking out of my theater, I walked by the 40X thing, and there were people in there being treated to what I like to call the free back massage that is the 40X experience. I mean, there are a lot of scenes with rain in them, so if you want to get wet, probably a good way of doing it. Tim Drake disliked it? Yeah, but Tim Drake sucks. All right, so I guess I'll move on here. Oh, actually, one final thing to say about Paul Dano, and it kind of speaks to one of the reasons why I think this film works really well. And it's something that not all Marvel films or all comic book films have been able to get or do properly. But I think it's sort of broadly accepted at this point that the best kind of villain in any kind of comic book superhero movie is the villain who you can relate to, or in some cases think that they're right. And it's really just the methods that they use in order to achieve their goals that you have the most issue with. And in that case, the Batman is real good. A lot of what the Riddler does ideologically, what he is trying to do makes sense, and I think you can get behind it. At least, you know, I can get behind it to a certain degree. But, you know, it's the murder that's the problem. It's the murder that's the problem. And that's not a spoiler, because we all know that there was murder in this. It's in the trailers. So like Brent is saying, he's like Magneto in that way. He's trying to save his people. He's trying to protect his people. Magneto, that is. The Riddler is not trying to protect anybody. But as the film goes on and you learn about his motivations and what he is attempting to do, what his goals are in the film, I found that I was kind of like, yeah, that's actually a pretty good way of going about it. And if you were to swap the Riddler out for, say, an investigative journalist, you know, it's not that different from, say, a film like Spotlight. Once again, it's just the murder that's different. So I think for a film like The Batman to work, you really need the villain to work. And having Paul Dano be this kind of Riddler who you can actually kind of get behind to a certain degree, but then have to say to yourselves, like, hold on a second, maybe not with the murder part of it. Also, strangely, and I'm probably indicting myself a little bit here, and I guess just for the reference, I'm not a Trump supporter, but I think that there's a certain amount of, like, quote unquote drain the swamp energy going on with the Riddler as well. But that kind of rhetoric, the idea that we need to eliminate corruption in certain segments of society, especially at, say, political governance, police force kind of level, that is not something that is, you know, exclusively the territory of right-wing idiots who are bootlicking pieces of shit. So I think some of the response to him could be that he is he's like a stand-in for a Trump supporter or an incel or things like this. But the stuff that he's going after, I think, are actually broadly accepted things that we could do to make society better, once again, with murder. And it's the murder that makes it all the bad parts. I just mean Magneto is someone who isn't just evil, he has sympathetic qualities. Sure. I think in that case, the Riddler is not sympathetic at all. Like, he's definitely a fucking villain. Like, he is evil, very evil, but his goal is in and of itself admirable. It's just the avenue that he takes to achieve his goal is super evil and bad and not good. He's not a good guy. You know? He's just not a good one. Not a good one at all. TJ, your thoughts on AMC charging more for tickets for the Batman? I broadly am okay with this because I would like it to work in a kind of surge pricing kind of way. So as an example, like all tickets on Tuesdays are usually half price no matter what theater you're going to. If you could then have that applied to like all screenings where using like data-driven insights and things like this, theaters knew which screenings on which days for which types of movies typically had the lowest attendance, and then those drop to the half price ones, even if it is like a Friday or a Sunday or something like that, then good. What I fear is that when they put this in place, they're going to say, okay, every screening of the Batman, no matter when it is or where it is or whatever, is going to be this higher price, and it will never drop below this floor. So all they're going to be, So all that they're really going to be doing is keeping the price of tickets the same, and then when a blockbuster comes out, have those be more expensive. And maybe it's only for the first week, maybe it's only for the first 2 weeks or something like that. But what I think they should do is adopt this kind of surge pricing like tactic where if they know that a certain theater is not selling well, then just drop the prices on that particular screening in the hopes that you get more butts in seats. And I think some theaters are starting to do this. Like one of my local theaters has a membership program. You pay like $25 a month and you get to see as many movies as you want for free. And the main reason they can do that is that they know that they're making the most money off of the popcorn. So if they can just get you in there as often as possible, there's a higher chance you're going to be buying popcorn. TIFF is also doing something similar to this, where you can go see any of their older movies that they show for free if you are a member, regardless of your membership level. So they're just trying to get you in there so you'll buy popcorn. And like, I can resist popcorn. Sometimes I can't. Today I definitely did not. But it's a good tactic because you just want people to be in there as often as possible, and therefore you should be reducing the barrier to entry. The AMC part of this, on the other side of it, if they're just going to raise prices for blockbusters, that's the opposite way, because then you're just saying, well, the people who get to enjoy the movie on opening weekend are the people who can afford to pay more. And I'm not a big fan of that. But if they can ever expand that system, then good. Then good. Don, your point was ignored. I'm sorry if I'm missing chat. It's just in a live stream when I'm being a bit more rambly, I'm not gonna get to everyone immediately, or sometimes I'll just miss them, and I apologize for that. Just wait until the Oscars when we got like 20 or 30 people in here. You guys remember the Golden Globes when we had like 500 people in here? I was going crazy trying to keep up with the chat. How is Alfred? Good. All the acting is good. Yeah, no name drops. The best villains are the ones that you cannot relate to or understand their motivations. I disagree. We're probably referring to like Heath Ledger's Joker here because he's just like chaos incarnate. But to me, I need to at least be able to understand the motivations of the villain at least a little bit, be able to sympathize with them just a little bit, or at least understand like where they're coming from. And in this movie, you get it. You do get it. And I mean that kind of in like the comic book movie sense, I guess, as well. Because I just was thinking about, Seven, and like the bad guy in Seven, we don't really see a lot or know a lot from him. Although I guess his whole thing is, seeing things in society that he doesn't like anymore and basing them around the 7 deadly sins and then trying to make examples of people and getting rid of them. So, meh. I don't know. I guess I'll just say that in this particular film, I like that the Riddler was coming from. I like that I was able to know where Riddler was coming from, and it was just the execution of how he was accomplishing his goals that I didn't agree with. What city in America inspired Batman Gotham City? In this film, I think it's mostly Chicago. In the credits, they do mention that there was a Chicago unit, I think if we were to examine it closely enough, it's likely a combination of New York and Chicago at the same time, kind of like what they did with the Christopher Nolan Batman series. Just like what it was modeled off of. Yeah, it's kind of like New York City. Although in the DC universe, like in the comic books, there's Gotham City and then there is New York. And Gotham is actually in New Jersey, if you can believe it. And like Metropolis is like off in fucking Delaware or something like that. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. But architecturally, I think that Gotham is a lot closer to Chicago, but New York is like way bigger. So yeah, I think in the movie they use both locations in order to like blend the cities together. Alonzo, there are no spoilers. I'm not spoiling anything. Not doing any kind of spoilers. Wait, have you seen the film? Are you going to say spoilers? Because don't do it. Don't you do it. I'll time you out. Anyone who says a spoiler, I'll time you out. That is the power that I am really into abusing on here. Is it as good as The Dark Knight? It is a different kind of film from The Dark Knight. It has very different goals. It has different aesthetics. The presentation of the Batman is like of the Robert Pattinson Batman is different. I think that The Dark Knight is very much a 2008 film. And I think that the Batman is very much a 2022 film. And whether you think one is better than the other will probably depend on how willing you are to accept a Batman film that is of this age as opposed to what was going on in like 2008 or so. I didn't spoil anything. There's two villains. I didn't say anything about there being more than one villain. I've been talking about the Riddler this whole time. And yeah, there is a Nirvana song in it. That's not a spoiler. Give me a break. You could look at the... That's not a spoiler. Yeah, their Nirvana song doesn't spoil anything about the film. Like, there's nothing in the lyrics. There's nothing in the lyrics of the Nirvana song that spoils the film. Get out of here. I mean, stay, of course. But like, come on. All that is shown in the trailers. Yeah, pretty much everyone is shown in the trailers. Okay, so we just talked about Riddler. What I'm going to talk about next does slightly veer into spoiler territory, but I'm going to be very vague, and I'm mostly going to be using other films as an example about this. So with comic book films, especially with films where oh wait, hold on, before I get into this, TJ, you did mention another villain, but it's revealed in the trailer. What, Penguin? Yeah, Penguin's in the movie. He's in the trailers. He's like part of all the advertising. Don, come back in like 10 minutes. So yes. Nope, I'm watching it this Sunday. No problem. I'm open to every Batman version except for George Clooney, but we can all agree that Kevin Conroy is the best Batman ever. I mean, yeah, come on. Animated Batman's the best Batman, no doubt. Okay, so very, very, very minor spoilers. I'm not going to say anything specific, but I do want to address this because I think it's very important in how the Batman relates to other comic book films to talk about this. So in a lot of Marvel films, I've noticed that when it comes to character arcs, they almost don't really exist that much. I know that, like, say the character arc of Tony Stark over all of the Avengers films, there's like very minor things that happen along the way and he slowly starts to change, but to me it never felt that satisfying. And I think I kept feeling that we were always coming back to Tony is a little egotistical and does a dumb thing. He probably should have learned some kind of lesson after Iron Man 1 or 2 or 3, but then it's in Avengers 2 he still isn't able to like get his ego in check and like builds all of the Ultron machines, right? And it's just like, come on, you need to do some growth here, Tony. Like, grow with us, the audience. So I would say that like a main issue that I've often had with the Marvel films is the amount of character growth is not that substantial. Usually And I'm thinking now of like Falcon in the Winter Soldier and Falcon TV series. It's a lot about like just accepting his responsibility as being the new Captain America. Spoiler alert for the Disney Plus TV show that's been out for a few months. But his ideas and his opinions never really change. There's not really that strong of an epiphany moment. And I see that Don is saying here also Captain America had a beautiful character arc. I will fight you on this. What was Captain America's arc? Like he just started off as America's ass and ended as America's ass. I'm trying to think about like what he learned, but yeah, and to say with Brent here, yeah, spoiler free means that what we already know. Yeah, for sure. Like when I say about no spoilers, I'm talking about like referencing things in trailers. I think that's fair game, personally. Excuse me. All right, Don, we can fight. Next time I'm in New York, we'll do a hardcore street fight. I'll work on snapping my fingers. He came from humble beginnings. Yeah, and then he's still humble at the end. Anyways, there is, in the case of the Batman, there is a fairly substantial character arc for Mr. the Batman. And a lot of it has to do with his own perception of himself and how he relates to the city. His relationship to the city, I should say. He very much wants to protect the film, he very much wants to protect the city, and that's still true by the end of the film, but he has this kind of epiphany moment where he realizes that his approach at the beginning of the film is not very productive. And the way in which this epiphany is set up is very satisfying in my mind. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about it because there are things that are done in the very early part of the film that really set this up. And then when the moment happens later in the film, I'm not going to say it's like in the same realm as like the Martha, why did you say that name type epiphany. It is a little perhaps cringe, but it works well because it's set up well. And you can tell that the Batman who we have at the end of the film is a very different Batman than who we started with from an emotional and psychological standpoint. So in that way, this film really succeeds. I was very impressed with the fact that they actually gave enough shit about the character to not just keep him as this like monolithic Batman figure and to actually show him changing and adapting to the new circumstances that he was becoming involved with and realizing what was happening around him and how he was affecting the city that he was in ways that he was perhaps not aware of when the film started. So props to the film for doing that. Props to Matt Reeves because he's one of the writers on this film, so good for him. And yeah, it's good. It's good. I'll just go to the chat. I think what's going on here? What's going on in the chat here? Oh, we're still talking about Captain America. To someone who wanted to submit to an authority because that's what he saw as fit to accomplish the goals. Right, he's a soldier. His entire worldview was challenged and broken when his comfort in S.H.I.E.L.D. was revealed to be infiltrated by Hydra. He then had to come to terms with what it meant to be who he was and who he stands for. He has to change in a world who's already changed. And then in Civil War, he had to oppose those who he realized would hinder to his ideas, even if he were by the same people who would found comfort in authority. I see what you're saying, Don. I just don't know if he's that different. I mean, he does learn to curse. And he listens to Nirvana, I think, at some point. But yeah, I just don't see the kind of change that Batman experiences in this film, I think is different than the kind of change you're talking about Captain America going through. I see what you're saying, but I think we're like not exactly on the same wavelength, which is fine. Any bad CGI in the Batman? Remember Superman mustache in Justice League? Nah. In fact, I think going back to the film and replaying it in my mind a little bit, there really isn't any bad CGI. I think they actually go out of their way to do a lot of the film practically, so it has this very grounded feel to it, which is another strength of the film. It doesn't feel like a Marvel film because there's no, giant sky beam or whatever threatening a downtown area. It's just Batman against the grime and grit and creep of corruption throughout Gotham City, and also trying to solve a murder. So yeah, it's a very grounded film. I like that about it. Cap is not the same person. He literally says, I think I'm a new guy. I think a new guy came out of the ice. But doesn't he come out of the ice like after the first movie and he hasn't had time to grow yet? That kind of just says to me that they're telling us that he's had character growth instead of him actually having character growth. But once again, I'm likely not the best person to have this conversation because it's been a while since I've seen any of the Captain America films. I'm basically a one and doneer when it comes with the Marvel films. So yeah, maybe we just disagree. Maybe we're not talking about the same thing. That's fine. That's fine. And I think my point still holds, though, that most of the Marvel films, they don't really experience the best character growth or have the best character arcs. But once again, we can fight about that if you want at another time. Because I'm going to move on to another thing that I liked about this film. Fighting words. Psh, we don't have to fight. Another thing that I really liked about this film was that it didn't get bogged down with setup. Another thing that has become a real annoying part of the MCU, and I'm just going to keep singling them out because they are kind of the de facto style of superhero film to use as a counterpoint to this film. Every single Marvel film is in some way obsessed with setting up the very next thing, whether it is seeding future characters or giving us plot details that will pay off in like the third episode of some series that's on Disney Plus like 2 years later and things like this. This film is guilty of it in very small measure, in the fact that we already have the setup for the second film, but it's not really through any sort of character reveal. It's just how the story ends. It's a storyline that people who have read Batman throughout the years will remember. And if they do decide to make a second The Batman film, I'm excited to see what they're able to do with it. But the setup here is not really, it's different than the way that Marvel does it. And like, as I say, there's like maybe a hint about a future character, but once again, it's not over the top. It's not like they're trying to build out a cinematic universe here. It's just like, they're leaving in a little bit. So if there is a second movie, they have something to build off of, but it's a broad, wide canvas. And that is very welcoming to me. Yeah, it's good. It just makes me smile. Just being like, oh yeah, you can watch a movie and not think about how it's going to affect a broader universe, Remember those days when we could just like watch a film and be like, that was good. You don't have to worry about like the continuity or the storyline or any of that kind of stuff. Oof. Takes me back. Looks like Alonzo's coming and punching here because most of the MCU is for children. They can't have any complex ideas. The only complex character could be Thanos. Yeah, I mean that's a good example of a villain who you kind of like understand the motivations, but you disagree with the execution, right? And I think actually in the case of Thanos, it's a very simple switch that he could have made. Like, instead of having the population of the entire universe, why didn't you just double all the available resources? Done. Alfonso, you will respect Cap. Oh my God. I hope you defend your mother like you defend the MCU movies. Oh my goodness. Play nice, everybody. I don't want to have to turn into a referee here. Ugh. All right, so we're getting almost to the end of just things that I want to talk about with this film. A couple of more points. One of them is potential backlash against this film. I have a kind of crystal ball, and it's the ability to anticipate when shitty, reactionary, right-wing culture critics are going to have really bad takes about popular media on the internet. I will admit that the very minor backlash that Dune got from right-wing reactionaries, like, that caught me off guard. But I can kind of see where the anti-woke, anti-SJW people are going to come in swinging at this film. And I think I just want to preemptively tell them to go fuck themselves. Just go fuck off right into the sun. There are a couple of lines in this film that will make the anti-SJW people, it'll make their blood boil. They will seethe at a couple of lines in this film. And for the most part, they're just going to be stupid about it. They're just going to be really, really dumb about it. And what I think is probably going to be the funniest thing here is that what they are going to complain about really just comes down to who is in power at the end of the film. And I'm being as vague here as possible to avoid spoilers, but you can tell that within Gotham City, there has been a very purposeful power shift by the end of the film in certain regards. And that same type of power shift was evident in previous Batman films. I won't say which ones, probably a few of them from different time periods. And the only difference between this film and how it was approached in some other Batman films is who was in power at the end of it. And so let's just all agree that when they start, those fucking idiots, when they start trying to come for this film, let's just all agree that they might just be a little bit racist. Maybe they're just a little bit racist. What's wrong with the left wings? Birds need both wings. All wings matter. Yeah, but the left wing's the best wing. Come on. Does the movie feel PG-13 or could it easily be rated R if you have blood and F words? Honestly, this movie could have been rated R. I think just as it is. I think they were probably like 1 or 2 severed limbs away from this being a rated R film. Its tone is very much not for children. It's certainly a more adult take on Batman. There is some gore. Like, we can't forget here that the Riddler is a serial killer, and he does serial killer things in this, like the kind of stuff that you would see in Seven. Not as grotesque as that, but they do get into some like very almost rated R territory. And yeah, I think also if there was like a couple of fucks thrown in there, it's a rated R, like almost off the bat, right off the bat. So yeah. It's on the line. It's on the line. And I wouldn't actually be surprised. And this is something that we should probably all remember when it comes to the MPAA. It was created by the studios to police themselves. So like, if they want to, they can lean on it a little bit and say, you know what? Is it really a rated R though? Like, is it? There is power that can be exerted on the MPAA. So, you know, just because something is PG-13 doesn't mean that it like can't also be rated R, you know? Speak for yourself. I loved I Am Legend at 13. Interesting. I remember seeing the original version of that film starring Vincent Price. It's a good one. Any chance we can get a retro reveal for the movie High Fidelity? That's an interesting one, actually. High Fidelity. I wonder if it's aged poorly. Mostly because it's a guy like complaining about his ex-girlfriends. I wonder if maybe it's a tad misogynistic. Yeah, I mean, if I rewatch it, yeah, I'll talk about it for sure. Oop, sorry, I just hit the mic. Pardon me. Let's see. Would you say the new Batman movie was made to portray the 70s? No. That's something I wasn't going to talk much about, but it's not spoiler, so I guess I can get into it. I think that this film takes place in the here and now, but from like a technology standpoint, in terms of like what Batman has access to and what he uses, it feels kind of like 80s retros futurist kind of. I don't want to get into it too much more than that, but like obviously there are like flat screen TVs and things like that. Like this, it very much is meant to feel like taking place in a modern film, but some of Batman's equipment does have very strong like 80s vibes to it. And I think that has more to do with who the Waynes are as a family in this particular universe, as opposed to, say, the Nolan universe. In the Nolan universe, Wayne Enterprises got into like military contracts and things like this. So Batman had a lot of access to military grade equipment and things like this. They don't really go into that in the Batman. And I think one of the things we're supposed to assume from that is that Wayne Enterprises as a corporation is not as military-ish. I don't think they have military contracts. It's never stated one way or the other, but I think that's kind of the way it goes. And everything has a more DIY feel to it as well. Like the Batmobile, which you've seen in the trailer, has more of a DIY vibe to it. A lot of the sort of stuff that you would see not on the utility belt, but just the stuff that Batman carries with him, also has very DIY vibes to it. So he feels less like a super soldier and more like a vigilante who's just got like a pretty good set of armor on him, and he's got his knucks. And you can just punch real good. Oh, I guess that's probably something else I should talk about. I didn't have it here in my list of things to talk about, but why not? The fight choreography. They take a bit of a different approach here. Once again, if you've been watching Marvel films recently, you'll know that they're going for more of that sort of like high-end, almost kung fu style of fight choreography. Very intricate, lots of very purposeful cuts and things like this. The Batman, because of its more grounded nature, it's not going to really surprise you or enthrall you with its fight choreography. It's not trying to be The Matrix. It's instead trying to be its own thing. And as I said before, it's a very grounded film. And so are the fights in it. Batman is real good at punching. And so he just punches people real good. The Batman that you get in this film doesn't feel like a ninja. And I say that because in the Nolan universe, he was trained as an assassin. In the Batman animated series, he trained as a samurai or as a ninja warrior in Japan. This Batman doesn't feel like a ninja. He just feels like a guy who punches real good, punches real hard. And the fight choreography reflects that. There certainly is not any of the like super fast, shaky cam fight cinematography like you would get in the Bourne films, thankfully. There's a lot of, say, wider pulled back shots where you get to see Batman, all the people who surround him, and then he just like, does some punching. And they do go into close-ups here and there for like impactful moments, but for the most part, they're very much just happy to have the actions kind of stay back a little bit. There are moments where fights are a bit disorienting, but that's because they're doing very specific things with light and what the film is allowing you to see, rather than making the action hard to follow because like everything's shaking a lot, and the cinematography is just kind of all whack. That's a professional film critic term, all whack. So yeah, once again, a fan of how they did it, because it felt like the fight choreography was being informed by the overall tone and aesthetic of the film, which is important. It's not like we were just getting sort of like the Seven version of Batman, but then during the fight sequences, it's like, you know, Bourne Ultimatum, like wild kind of fight cinematography. It was informed by the overall aesthetic and feeling of the film. Like, the film is a bit of a slow burn detective story, and while there are action sequences in it, they always felt a little bit toned down, a little bit pulled back, because it is more of a grounded film. And I think that works really well. And once again, is just refreshing, considering how every single comic book film we've seen in the last little while, like the stakes are always so high. Like literally the planet, dimensions, all kinds of things are going to be destroyed. And in the Batman, it's not about the planet or multiple dimensions or the multiverse or that kind of bullshit. So, and yeah, and the fight choreography does works along with that. So that made me happy. Yeah, Don, it's safe. Don't worry. Yeah, there was a lot of shaky cam in the Nolan films. I don't really remember the fight scenes in the Nolan films that much. The MPAA is so stupid. PG-13 should be erased and be like before, the good old days of G, PG, R, NC-17. PG movies are mostly G-rated movies, and most Marvel movies could be PG if we use the 80s standards. I will say to that, I'm glad that PG-13 exists, because we do need to have those films where they're a little bit more like adult in their presentation. They just don't have a bunch of swearing in them. And if we were to just go back to the good old PG day, I mean, if we're talking about the good old days, let's get rid of the MPAA altogether. Let's have honesty in advertising, so you know exactly what kind of film you're getting into, and you're not accidentally taking your kid to see like a porno film or something like that. And let's just like get rid of the MPAA. Let's get rid of that that stuff altogether. Like, we did see some pretty wild stuff happening in cinema before the MPAA came around. And I think we could probably go back to those days. And I'm not talking about like a return to the Hays Code or anything like that, but let's just get rid of all of it. Fuck it. If you're like watching the trailer for Midnight Cowboy and you can't tell that some fucked up shit's gonna go down, or that it's like a more adult film that maybe your 8-year-old kid shouldn't see, then maybe don't take your kid to the movies at all, because it sounds like you're not really literate enough in media in order to interpret that kind of stuff, you know? So yeah. Are you gonna buy Batman on 4K? That's an interesting question. I will say that in my theatrical experience of the Batman, I will need to go see it again in theaters, because I'm not entirely sure if the projector in my theater was focused properly, because a lot of the imagery, or a lot of the images in the film, were slightly out of focus. The degree to which I found surprising. I'm not sure if it's the projector or if they were going for more of like a muted, not so sharp focus type of look. That could have been a purposeful choice, but I would need to see the film again in order to figure that out. That said, and I will let everyone here know this, please go see the Batman on the screen that is the best one available to you. I went to see the Batman on an Ultra AVX screen, which is a bit more of a premium format that we have in Toronto. I will see it again, more than likely at a very specific IMAX theater in Toronto, because I know that that is one of the best projectors in the country, and that will basically solve a lot of problems for me. I also very much would like to see the Batman shown at the TIFF Bell Lightbox, because I know that they would actually project it properly. Something to be aware of, and I guess not really to be aware of, but like, this is a dark movie. There's a lot of black in this movie. So if you are watching this in a theater where they don't do enough to like dim the lights, as an example, or have blackout curtains around, so like there's a lot of light reflection and things like that happening, it's going to seriously affect the film itself, because this is a dark film. I'm trying to think of scenes in this film that take place in the day. I think there's one. Yeah, I think there's one film that takes place during the day, and it's not even outside. It's a very, very dark film. So watch it at a theater where you know they're going to project it properly, where they're going to have it bright enough where those little details in the brightness can actually pop out while still keeping things as dark as they need to be. As far as am I going to buy Batman on 4K, I might end up buying it on like Apple TV in 4K if I can get it for a good price down the line, because I think this film will look stunning on like an HDR enabled 4K TV, mostly because it will be able to handle those deep blacks and the contrast between the light and dark parts of the image way better than can be done with a projected image. It's one of the downsides of sort of the trend that we're moving towards, where the home theater experience is privileged over the theatrical experience. And I'm not a big fan of it because it does diminish the theatrical experience, having like having these films being like mastered in HDR, high dynamic range, and you're not able to really do HDR properly with a projector. So the best screen to probably watch the Batman on when it's all said and done will likely be a 4K HDR, like somewhat high-end television. But since we are going to have to wait a few months to actually get to see that one, I would say please go see it just at the best quality theater that you are aware of. And like, you're cinephiles, you go around to different theaters, you've probably been in different theaters, you know which ones do it properly, so please go see it in the one that does it properly. And let me know if you thought the image was a little bit soft, or if maybe I was just in a theater where they hadn't properly focused the projector. Agreed, dissolve the MPAA and real descriptions of films and let people decide if the movie's appropriate or not. I love the DC movies are doing standalone, like Joker and the Batman, but they're still doing things in the DCEU. Like we got Aquaman and the Flash coming out this year. And honestly, I think I'm totally good with that. And I think it probably offers us a better way forward than what the MCU delivers, because we can have standalone films that are not indebted to like, what are we, 14 years into the MCU at this point? It's not indebted to 14 years of like previous storytelling. They can just tell individual stories. And at the same time, they can just, in the future, if they want to like fix it all, they can just do Crisis on Infinite Earths, bring everyone together, and it's cool. So like they have options in that way. Apparently Disney has deplatformed the Russian Princess Anastasia, but claims it has nothing to do with Ukraine. I mean, if that's true, that's some incredible timing. I mean, what was the reason that they actually gave then? Like what? Why would they do that? Oh my goodness. Oh, I guess that also is something that I can just mention because it got brought up. In terms of the poll that I put up the other day as to whether or not compartment number 6 should be removed from the Cinematheque Film Awards, because it's a Russian film, part Russian film. Oh, let me just go to the community tab. I was about to read you the results of the Batman poll that I put up. So basically, the community decided on almost a 2-to-1 vote that compartment number 6 should stay in the Cinematheque Film Awards. So it's gonna. Just wanted to let you all know. Okay, so I guess I just have one final thing probably to talk about with this film. If you guys have other questions about the film that, I don't have to get into spoilers to discuss, I definitely will do that. I also did see all of the animated shorts that have been nominated for the Oscar today, so I'm going to talk about that a bit later as well. So yeah, just to wrap up my thoughts on the Batman, and I realized that I've been talking about this film for over an hour, so I don't know how I'm going to cut this down into a review to put on the channel tomorrow. Might take a bit longer than I was expecting. The way that I want to wrap this all up is just talk about expectations versus what was delivered. And in film these days, the hype train can get away from us. It can get away from us real bad, to the point where when a film does not meet certain expectations, the audience turns against it. I will give The Last Jedi as an example of this happening. Everyone wanted a very specific kind of film, and when some people didn't get it, they got real mad and real loud, and we're still kind of paying the price for that today. With The Batman, I think they delivered on pretty much every expectation you can imagine. And I think there's probably something to be said about how the expectations of this film were managed. The film that you see will not be different from the film that was presented to you in the trailers. It's just a 3-hour version of what you already saw in the trailers. It's not like they were pulling the very best shots out of the film. They just pulled the shots that they thought could get people into theaters. But it was a very honest marketing campaign. And that was key. That was very key for The Batman, because if they embellished or tried to hook you in a way that was not cogent with what the film actually was, then the expectations they would be setting up could not have been met by the film. But they marketed it in a smart way, and for myself, I will say that my expectations were fully met. And I think in some cases even exceeded, like when I was talking about Batman's character arc and how that functioned in the film. Also the relationship between the Batman and the Riddler. And I don't mean like they're bros, but like how they function together within the story. That went a step further than what I was expecting. So in a couple of ways, this film even exceeded my expectations. But that was more because I think the marketing of this film was honest. And that is something that I think we need to see a lot more of in cinema today, especially with the blockbusters. And I think, yeah, that's probably where I will leave this. The Batman is real good. It's a real good movie. And I think if you go in with whatever expectations you have, this film will meet them, and in some cases surpass them. And it's going to be a film that's going to stick with us for a while, I think. Not in that there's a bunch of Easter eggs or things you're going to have to go back and like watch again. The film is very deliberate. I don't think there's ever a moment in the film where I was confused about what was going on. They are very good about giving you the story at a pace where you're still intrigued about what's going on, but you're not being overwhelmed with information. And I would just love to see more films like this. I think if Matt Reeves does get another kick at the can, and I imagine he will, because even though there isn't much set up in this film, they are definitely hoping to do a sequel, and they already know which storyline of Batman they're going to do in the sequel. If Matt Reeves gets another kick at the can, I'd be interested to see if he thinks that, like, okay, I got to make another 3-hour film because that's what people are expecting, or would he be allowed to make a shorter film if he wanted to? I am most interested in that aspect of whatever sequel comes afterwards. Because like I said, this film is a 3-hour film. The Batman is a 3-hour film, but there's nothing that I would want to be removed from it. And so if you want the film to be shorter, it would have to be a completely different film. It would have to be a completely different story. And a sequel would be a completely different story. So would it be shorter? Would it be longer? Are we ready for a 3.5-hour epic Batman film? If Matt Reeves is doing it, I wouldn't be mad about it. I wouldn't be mad about that at all. Yeah. The Batman. The Batman. Thumbs up. Rocco, how many claws are you giving Batman? You didn't see it, but like, can you guess? Can you guess how many claws you'd give it? 8? 8 claws? Yeah, I think he's giving it 8 claws, but he didn't see it, so he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Oh, Don. Last Jedi was trash. Oh, wait, what's the... Brent, are you saying agreed to what I was saying, or are you saying The Last Jedi was trash? I'm changing my compartment number 6 vote. Fair. Fair enough. I don't think I was going to put it in as my number one, although I was kind of considering it. I'm not going to lie. I did really enjoy it. Oh, and Oh, he does have 20 claws. You're right. I was thinking about... I was thinking about, like, if he was a human, then he would only have, like, 10 claws. But you're right. He's a cat. So, yeah, he's got 20. Well, that's how we know he didn't see it. He only gave it, like, an 8 out of 20, which is like a 4 out of 10. Which is like a 2 out of 5. That's not... This film is not a 2 out of 5. No way. No way. Oh, man. Can't believe it took me an hour and a, like almost an hour and a half to talk about the Batman. Good lord. Okay, so you're saying The Last Jedi was trash. Well, I liked it. Take that as you will. Maybe the Batman is actually just as bad as The Last Jedi. Who knows? And I can actually see some people like pushing back against the Batman, not enjoying it, and I think largely it's going to come down to the length. But like I said, I just don't know how they do that story shorter. I feel like I just wouldn't like it as much if they tried to do it shorter, if they tried to compress it a lot. It just felt right, you know? Whew. All right. All right. I don't know what's slowing me down. Maybe it was the food I ate before I came online, but I am tired, y'all. I am tired. I wish I could play Wordle again. That would get my brain going. Do you guys have any particular questions about the Batman that you would like to ask? I'm just kind of checking in on the tweets and seeing how that's doing. Happy to answer any non-spoiler related questions, comments, things like that about La Batman. Or is it La Batman? I guess it would be La Batman. This is a great tweet. Hold on, I'll go to the internet thing. From Jessica Ellis. People who have watched 15 Batman movies. Okay, but why does West Side Story need to be remade? Chuckle, 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 chuckle. I'm just going to take this away from this in case there are any Batman spoilers on my timeline. Yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff here. It's just kind of like, oh, this film is like 80% Batman and 20% Bruce. And it's all the better for it. Bruce Wayne is boring. Batman is sick. Get out of here, Bruce Wayne. Actually, me too. I'm heading to bed. Have a good night. You too, man. Enjoy your Friday. Go see Batman, or enjoy watching Spider-Man on Sunday. I hope you were able to avoid spoilers until then. I actually don't know what I'm doing on this live stream anymore. Right, I was going to talk about animated films. Oscars, Wikipedia, animated. How do you Google? I've lost my mind somehow. Oscars, Wikipedia, animated shorts. Let's do it. Has anyone else seen the best animated shorts from this year? Because I have. I saw them today before seeing the Batman. All right, so I'll just go through these. I'll go through these. I don't think it's going to be a longer stream tonight, everyone. My apologies. I was thinking beforehand, like, oh man, could I actually just do this for like 4 hours again tonight? I don't think I got it in me today. But I do want to talk about these because I did just see them and it's all fresh in my mind. So, the Academy Award for Best Short Animated Film. The current nominees, and the only nominees, are Affairs of the Art, Bestia, Box Ballet, Robin Robin, and The Windshield Wiper. And I'm now going to get into Oscar prediction mode, where I don't give a good gosh darn about how good the films actually are. I'm more just going to be talking about the chances that they have of actually winning based off of their content and how Oscar voters tend to vote on these things in the past. So just to talk about them briefly, give you just like a brief story overview of them and what to expect from them. Uh, when I was watching them today, there was this very clear divide in the films and how they were screened. For the first two, I guess they were considered to be the most family friendly, and those were Robin Robin and Box Ballet. And then as soon as Box Ballet was over, it came up with like a big warning on the screen that was like, I think it literally said like, warning. The following 3 films have explicit content in them that are not suitable for children. And I'm paraphrasing now, but like, we're talking about violence and sex and penises and boobs and all of these adult things. And at the very bottom, it's like, we will wait a couple of minutes before starting the next film so you have a chance to leave if you have children with you. Like almost shaming parents into taking their kids out so they don't get like fucking traumatized by the 3 movies that came after, which were Beastia, The Windshield Wiper, and Affairs of the Art. And I think Beastia is the only traumatizing one out of the 3. Affairs of the Art is... It certainly has like graphic depictions of the human anatomy, but nothing that I would say is so untoward that like that to me says that you're part of a society that is incapable of talking about sex on any level unless the other person is like 18 years old or something like that. Like Real Strong, we can't Real Strong, we have to teach kids abstinence vibes. Like that's the kind of people who saw Affairs of the Art and thought to themselves, kids can't watch this. This will be traumatizing for them. And it's like, well, actually, if you just, do sex ed properly, this wouldn't be an issue. Anyways, the 5 films, the order that I saw them in, Robin Robin, it is the Netflix entry. It's a very cute film about Robin, who is part of a mouse family. And the mices, they're very good at sneaking. They're good at sneaking around, but the Robin ain't very good at sneaking because it's a bird. And they get into all kind of hijinks. This is the longest of the short films. It's about half an hour long. And it uses a kind of combo animation style, I think, where they're using kind of like stuffed animals for the characters, but I think some of what we're seeing in the background is like CG animated. Or maybe they built all of that stuff from scratch. I don't know. That would be wild if they did. But it had a cool look to it. I will say it had a cool look to it. I think if you tend to pick the films that are the most family friendly, like if you have looked back at the history of the films that have won this, and you're looking at the Pixar and the Disney shorts that have picked it up in the past, this would probably be the one that you would go with. It's certainly the most family friendly of them. It's the one that you could actually show to a child and not have to explain too many things about, whereas the rest do tend to deal with some heavier, weightier issues. And I think overall the animation style is, I would say it's good. I'm no animation expert, but I think they did a good job with it. Box Ballet is the other one that is supposedly okay for kids, and it is... I can't imagine that it's going to win, and that's largely because it's Russian. And they say at the very beginning, like at the beginning of all of them, they tell you which country that the film is coming from. And as soon as I saw that Box Ballet was Russian, I was like, well, that's got no shot. As far as I know, Oscar voting is still ongoing right now. So I think as soon as anyone realizes that it's a Russian film, no one's going to vote for it. From a story perspective, it is about a ballet dancer and a boxer in Russia, and they strike up a kind of unlikely, sort of almost romance. And what the film is really depicting is life just leading up to the collapse of the Soviet Union, and how those two people are able to connect in that type of society. I think also there might be an undercurrent here of like, this is why the Soviet Union collapsed, because people were being stupid. But it's not really about the Soviet Union. It's more just about this relationship and how it develops. The animation style certainly stood out. I haven't really seen a typical like hand-drawn animated film that looked quite like this, although once again, my experience in animation is not that broad. But I think besides the fact that this is a Russian film, and I don't think anyone's going to be voting for a Russian film, I don't think it would have won anyways on its own merits. I think there are stronger films here. The next one up is Affairs of the Art. This is a Canadian-UK co-production, so naturally I want it to win because I'm a good old Canadian boy who cheers for the home team. And this one's kind of interesting because it deals a lot with wasted time, the time that we waste in our lives, and how it all just adds up and adds up and adds up until one day you are in your late 50s and you don't really know what you've done with your life and you haven't accomplished what you have sought out to accomplish. I think it's also in some ways taking a bit of a playful jab at art and the creation of art and who it is that creates art. And in that way, I certainly enjoyed it. I've certainly had those moments where I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Why am I doing it? What is this worth? Who even cares about what I'm doing? Like, what is the purpose of all of this? And so I was able to appreciate where the lead character was coming from in it. But it kind of just ends. It's sort of like they had this idea about how to show someone going through this kind of moment, and then the movie ends. I would say that this film kind of suffers because there isn't that sort of beginning, middle, end. It feels like it's mostly middle, and the beginning gets explained to you on the way, and then the ending is just the ending. And it's not like in that 1940s Hollywood way where, you know, the heteronormative couple gets together and then the end just shows up on screen and like, there you go. I feel like there was probably a bit more story to be told here, and it just decided not to, or they didn't feel like it was worth it or whatever. So as much as I enjoyed Affairs of the Art and I like the kind of sketchy art style of it, it didn't feel like a complete film to me. Which then brings me to Bestia, which I don't know how to talk about this one. I think if we were handing out the Academy Award for Best Short Animated Film based on which film made you feel the most uncomfortable, then Bestia wins in a landslide. It is a Chilean film. I think that this film is set during the Pinochet dictatorship. I think. The film is not so explicit about that. It's also more of a stop motion animation film. It uses these very deliberate porcelain doll type figures that have like a very particular look to them. And I think it's actually kind of interesting because they don't ever really, to my recollection, change the expression of the porcelain dolls. So it kind of gives you this sense of everyone's always just kind of in a bad mood, which is one of the reasons why I think this film takes place during the Pinochet dictatorship. Actually, I'm just going to click on the Wikipedia article and see if it'll tell me. Tell me about the plot. God damn it. Co-written by Inspire. It is inspired by Ingrid Olderock, Dina agent during the Chilean military dictatorship. What is this? Oh, it's based off of a real life person. She was a Carabineros major and former Dina agent responsible for human rights violations between the years 1974 and the early 1980s. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh shoot, I didn't want to get rid of that just yet. No. Come back to me. All right, I got it. So yeah, there's some fucked up shit in this film, in Bestia. Some real fucked up shit. I don't mind telling you that, and I don't mind calling it fucked up shit, because it's fucked up shit. Think of like some of what you've seen in animated films that were definitely made for adults, like Anomalisa, as an example, and then go further than that in ways that you don't expect, because it's not something that you would ever imagine seeing depicted in a film. And the banality in which some of these things are presented, like it's obviously all part of it, It's all part of how they want to present the subject matter of what's going on. The fact that this is taking place during a dictatorship, the banal way that certain things are shown. It's kind of just like you're in a joyless, terrible world, and everything just has that same kind of blah feeling to it, but you're watching horrendous things happen. It's a very yeah. Let me know if you guys have seen any of these, or if the way I'm explaining them makes you want to see them. But yeah, Bestia, it's super fucked. But as I said, if they were handing out an award for the film that made me feel the most uncomfortable, it would win. But I think also it might just be the best one out of all of them. But because of the subject matter and how it's presented, or not how it's presented, but just the subject matter in and of itself, I just don't think it wins because of that. It doesn't have that sort of broad, wide appeal that a Robin would. So I think it's actually the best one of the 5, but it's also the most fucked up, and I don't want to watch it again. But it is the best one, I think. I am really tired right now, so it's hard to say. That was a good yawn. That was a really good yawn. I bet you're yawning at home right now. F in the chat if you're yawning at home right now. Final film of this block was The Windshield Wiper. And to be honest with y'all, I was expecting a movie about windshield wiping, and that was not what I got. This film was kind of a rumination of sorts on love. The central question of the film at the beginning of the film is, what is love? And that question is answered at the very end of the film. They give you an answer for what love is by the end. But what essentially happens in The Windshield Wiper is that you see lots of different vignettes, and you find out at the end of the film that it's based around the director's own experiences with love in different cities all over the world. And I really love the style of it. I think out of all of the films, it's the one that feels the most modern in terms of its animation. When looking at films like Robin or Bestia or Affairs of the Art or Box Ballet, it feels like these films, with the exception of maybe Robin, they could have been made 10 years ago, 20 years ago. There's nothing immediate about them that sticks out. Whereas with The Windshield Wiper, it feels like the now. It feels like an interpretation of modern society graphically. And I don't mean that I mean that more in like a graphic design sense rather than like violence. But there are some kind of weird-ish things shown in this. Not completely. It was part of the trigger warning section of the of this film selection. So I think the one that ends up winning is The Windshield Wiper, because it deals with this very broad topic of what is love. It's a very personal film, and I think the animation style will stick out. I think it will get into your head. I think it will stand out amongst the other 4, because the other 4, we've kind of seen it. And, Robin, as an example, has some star power going for it, like Gillian Anderson and a British actor who's really good, that I hate myself that I can't remember his name now. But yeah, The Windshield Wiper seems to me like the best bet here. It's either that or Robin. Like Robin might end up taking it because it is the most kid-friendly, but I would prefer to see The Windshield Wiper win this. Even though I think Bestia is the best film, but Bestia is just too fucked up to win. What does that say about me? I don't know. Don is back. What's up, Don? I'm just talking about the 5 films nominated for Best Short Animated Film at the Oscars. I think that Bestia is the best. I think that Robin or The Windshield Wiper will win, and I'm hoping that The Windshield Wiper wins. Ooh. Oh, that's some good moonshine. Tell you what. Ooh. So that's all I really planned about talking about today. Anyone, you guys got any questions you wanna go over? Anything you want to chat about while we're all here? I guess while I'm waiting on that, I'll just remind everyone that the next live stream will be Sunday evening, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be reacting to the Independent Spirit Awards, and I will hopefully have a bit more energy than I do right now. I know that I will, though. I know that I will. Beyond that, voting for the Cinematheque Film Awards. Oh my god. Why am I tired? I had a good night's sleep. Voting for the Cinematheque Film Awards is now open. The ballot is in the description box below, as well as links to all of the various social media where you can hang out and chat with me. The Discord, the Twitter, the Letterboxd, all of the important ones, the TikToks as well. Can't forget those. And, any other announcements? What else do I have in this ticker? Oh yeah, like the live stream if you haven't already. But I feel like everyone who's still here already has. But if you haven't, give me those likes. I need that engagement. Gosh darn it. I don't know why holding my hands up like this, why I think this is a good thing. But it feels like a good thing to do. All right. I am not seeing anything in the chat. I think maybe everyone's a little bit tired. They're a little bit tired. If you're just joining in late, I've already talked about the Batman. TLDR. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. It did a lot of good things. It did a lot of good things. I think it justified its length. I'm glad that they took 3 hours to tell that story. The performances are universally good. There's no one who gives a bad performance. How they figured the Riddler and what he was up to the whole time, really into that. He was really just someone who was trying to make the world a better place. It was just the how he went about doing it that made him a villain. Batman's arc is very satisfying. He didn't get bogged down with setup. People who are anti-woke are going to have issues with it, but fuck them. And this film did a really great job of managing and meeting expectations. So I left the film super satisfied with it. And I think that's about all I can say about Batman, the Batman 2022. Oh, one thing I will do right now, actually, while I still have some of you here, because we can't like not talk about Trash Humpers in every live stream from now on. So we need to do a little thing here. We need to send a message to Harmony Korine. Hey, Harmony Korine. Is he even on Twitter? It doesn't look like it. There's a private account called Harmony Korine BF. Maybe they know how to get in touch with him. Shit. All right. I was gonna send him a message, because if you go to archive.org and look up Trash Humpers, back on Trash Humpers, woo 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 Trash Humpers. Some of these, or at least one of them. Oh no, that's the Wayback Machine. That's not what I wanted at all. Some of these look like they were uploaded by someone with the username Harmony Korine. So obviously not all of them are uploaded by Harmony Korine, but what if one of them was uploaded by Harmony Korine? Does that mean that if one of them was uploaded by Harmony Korine, that I can show it? I think maybe I can. But I want Harmony Korine to tell me that, you know? I just don't want to assume. I don't want to get sued. Is what I'm getting at here. No one wants to get sued. That's like the worst thing that can happen to you. Well, one of the worst things that can happen to you. I do want to send a tweet though. Who should I send a tweet to? This is a great way to watch Saw also. That's pretty fun. Holy shit. Look at all this Scream stuff. Why? What? I mean, I guess I know why a Bloody Mary would be the drink of Scream, but let's see here. Yeah. Actually, I should get away from this because there might be spoilers. There might be Batman spoilers. I guess I'll just scroll through my my tweets a little bit, see if there's anything good on there. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da. I love how there could potentially be people clicking on right now and they're just hearing me hum Nirvana and they're like, what is he doing? But like, it's a Batman thing. Maybe that's something that we can get into a little bit, because I was thinking about this on the way home and it's like, okay, there's a Nirvana song used in the Batman, but like I'm kind of wondering like what other Nirvana songs could have been used in this, or maybe what Nirvana songs are going to be used in in future Batman films, because I think they hit on something. I think they hit on something pretty fun. Yeah, studio albums. So I think probably something from Incesticide would be a good deeper cut, because like it's mostly B-sides, demos, and outtakes and things like that. And I think the song that they did end up picking was a good pick because it's not a song that's typically associated with Nirvana. So like when it first started playing, I was like, "Oh, is this a Radiohead song?" And then I realized when watching the credits that I was an idiot, and that I had forgot about it. Man, I think Molly's Lips could be fun. I think Molly's Lips would be a fun Batman song. Aero Zeppelin, of course. Hairspray Queen, not bad. Downer. Ooh. Downer could be a good one. And it's actually from the CD version of Bleach, so that could work. That could work. Yeah. Yeah. I need to listen to it again to remember it, but that could work really well. But then also, I think there are probably some good songs from Nevermind that could have worked as well. Not Incesticide. What else is on Nevermind? Tourette's, maybe. Would Tourette's have worked? I think Tourette's might have worked really well. We've gone really off the rails here. I can't believe that you guys are still watching me talk about Nirvana. Y'all must really like the channel to hear me talking about Nirvana. Territorial Pissings would be pretty good for the Batman 2. Stay Away, maybe. What record is Tourette's on? Is it on In Utero? I don't remember that. Oh no, yeah, Tourette's is on that. All Apologies, yeah, that works. Yo, Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. I don't know if it would work well in the Batman 2, but it is an underrated Nirvana song. Radio Friendly Unit Shifter. I used to be able to play that on bass, which is no brag. Like, as soon as you pick up a bass guitar and play for a month, you can play pretty much every Nirvana song on bass, but still. I was proud of that. Francis Farmer Will Have Her Revenge on Seattle. Yeah, no, I think we already hit on it. I think it's Downer. I think Downer has got to be the Nirvana song in the Batman 2. One other thing, now that I'm like looking at Twitter, does anyone here watch the Blank or listen to the Blank Check podcast? I think it's Blank Check, isn't it? That film podcast. because they are doing their annual, yeah, it is, okay, blank check. They are doing their annual March Madness thing, and I really liked their bracket this year. I thought that was pretty fun. Yeah, the 20th century bracket. Oh, have they started voting yet? When does the voting start? So for those of you who don't know, Blank Check is a film podcast where they basically do the entire filmographies of a particular director, and they I mean, it's mostly a comedy podcast where they just recount the plot line of it from what I remember. So it looks like they have already started the voting. But here, yeah, I'll bring this up. I'll bring this bracket up. So you guys can see it. Actually, yeah, is this viewable? Can you guys even read this? Probably not. I mean, I can't even read this. Can I do this? Well, that just makes it smaller. Ooh, that's a bit better. More? No, can't enhance beyond that. So I really liked how they did this one because they're doing it sort of by decades. So the regions here are 20s to 30s, 30s to 50s, 50s to 70s, and 70s to 2000s. And so like in the 20s to 30s bracket, you have like Charlie Chaplin going up against Murnau. Then you have Dreyer going against Asner, early Hitchcock versus Fritz Lang, Buster Keaton versus Eisenstein. And then in the 30s to 50s, you have middle Hitchcock. Are there 3 different Hitchcocks or only? Okay, no, there's only the one. Which is weird because you could easily do Hitchcock in the 60s as well. Yeah, you easily could do that. But yeah, they've got like other Hitchcock versus Cocteau, David Lean versus Lubitsch, The Archers versus Lupino, Wells versus Sturgis, which I mean, that is weird. I think Sturgis actually did a lot better in the 30s to 50s. Like I know that Wells did Citizen Kane, but Sturgis had an excellent run in the 40s. 50s to 70s, you've got Kubrick versus Tati, Cassavetes versus Visconti. And like, I don't know why they're doing Visconti as opposed to like Antonioni. Like if you're just going to throw a random Italian filmmaker in there, like go with Antonioni. Visconti's cool and all, but like Antonioni, y'all. Also the fact that they didn't really include Godard in this. Maybe they've already done Godard, I have no idea. But they included Truffaut and not Godard, and that seems kind of weird. But then you have like 70s Altman versus Tarkovsky, Truffaut versus Van Peebles, and I do like how they included Martin Van Peebles here. And then for 70s to 2000s, you have early Spielberg, Dutch Verhoeven, Streisand versus Albert Brooks, which is pretty interesting. Bluth versus Edward Yang, Don Bluth versus Edward Yang, which is pretty wild. Michael Cimino versus Mel Brooks. A lot of great Mel Brooks movies in there. So, I don't know. Maybe once they get like done with the first round, we can look at who they've picked and who we think is going to go all the way in this. For me, I'm thinking like out of the 20s and 30s region, like I know whoever comes out of this is going to get stomped, but I think it's probably Hitchcock. But I think the most interesting question in this whole thing is in the first round. Like, does early Hitchcock, like silent Hitchcock into the 30s, so films like 39 Steps, The Man Who Knew Too Much, does that beat the entire filmography of Fritz Lang, which includes like Metropolis and M, I believe, and other Fritz Lang films. Fritz Lang. I mean, M on its own should just probably get like several different episodes dedicated to it. But yeah, so you've got, oh yeah, Die Nublin as well. Jeez. Metropolis. M, which I've already mentioned. Where did his American film start? Probably in here. So you got like Fury, Hangmen Also Die, Ministry of Fear, Scarlet Street. All really good. So, and also that would give them a lot of movies to talk about. They probably have to pick and choose, I would think. So that to me is a really interesting matchup. I would still probably pick Hitchcock, early Hitchcock, over Lang in that case. And then like Keaton beats Eisenstein, but then Keaton loses to whoever is in here. Dreyer beats Asner. Chaplin probably beats Murnau, although Nosferatu has a lot of like name potential on it. So Murnau might beat Chaplin. In any case, Chaplin beats, wins in here. And who would win here between say Hitchcock and Keaton? Probably Hitchcock, I would think. And then you got what? Hitchcock versus Chaplin, and I think once again Hitchcock wins because of name recognition. But I think this is a pretty interesting bracket. And yeah, the other ones have like their own like little stories in them and what's going on. But oh, hello. Do you want to say hello to your fans, Rocco? Yes, he does. Oh, hey, come on. Oh, come on. Your claws are too long. Oh, shush. Here he is. The big kitty decided to make an appearance. Ugh. Let's stop talking about films. Let's look at this big cat. Oh, look at you. Oh. The tum-tum everyone wants to see. To anyone joining late, this is Batman. This is the Batman that I'm reviewing. It's actually my big black cat. Oh, let's see here. Oh. I wonder if I've ever like just shown you guys like how absolutely massive this cat is. Like, look at him. Look at him. That's my head. He's like 2 of my heads. Such a big cat. And so comfortable. I could probably just like fall asleep right now, using him as a pillow. You wouldn't like that very much though, would you? Hey. Okay. There you go. Are you gonna stay? Are you gonna stay? Let's give you some pats. Might see the tail pop up every now and again. Oh, so much hair, Rocco. My God. Why do you shed so much? Are you just gonna purr into the microphone? Is that your goal? Good it is. Can y'all hear that? I don't know if maybe my my noise canceling thing would like knock that out or not. But Rocco is very interested in the microphone right now, aren't you? Yes, you are. Aw. All right, people who are still here, what's up? How you doing? I think as we're getting closer to 10 p.m., I have not gotten the second wind that I was thinking I might, so this may be an early stream evening. I apologize. Oh, boy. And I'm also now just thinking about, like, how do I cut that review down of Batman? It's like an hour and 10 minutes long. Jesus. I might just have to make a separate, like, short instead. That's probably the easiest thing to do. Yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, so next live stream, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to be live reacting to the Independent Spirit Awards. Hope you all will come back and check it out. Thank you again, everyone who decided to come hang out, talk about Batman with me. I hope that you go see it, and I would love to hear your opinions on it when you do. If you want to get at me, social media accounts are all in the description. Join the Discord. Join the Twitter chatting. Follow me on Letterboxd. I put film opinions on there occasionally. And it would be really great to see you all for the live stream on Sunday, once again for the Independent Spirit Awards. With all that said, have yourselves a very Batman weekend. And let me know what you thought of it on Sunday when I go live at 7 p.m. Shane's here. Yo, I haven't seen you in the chat at all. I guess maybe you just arrived. But yeah, have a good one. See you then. Au revoir, mes amis. I'm looking at like all the different scenes on my live stream and I don't even know what they do anymore because my brain's not functioning. But I think I know what this one does. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Get off my plane.
He's looking at you, kid.
I have been, and always shall be, your friend.
The Force will be with you, always.
In case I don't see ya. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Hasta la vista, baby.